Hello, my friend. Welcome to Mulenge Speaks series part 9. Today we're gonna start where we stopped last time, and I'm welcoming you again to this series of Mulenge Speaks. As we already know, we are trying to explain, to bring you the good news about what Mulenge is and what the Banyarwanda are, and what the difference between the people who own um, who are the first occupant of Mulenge and who are not. And so today we're gonna continue with, where we left last time. I believe we stopped at reading the definition and memorandum, the explanatory memorandum about the article, the August 25th, 2007 law that Joseph Kabila Kanambe signed into law. That was establishing the status of customary chief. And so in that law that President Kabila signed, he said that that law applied to chief of chieftainship, or chef de chefferie in French. The law also applied to group leader or chef de groupement. And the same law also applied to village village chief or chef de village. All of them were appointed in accordance with local custom. And so he also defined, the law also defined what was a customary chief. And it said that it was any person appointed in accordance with local custom, recognized by the public authorities and responsible for leading a customer entities. So this law that the Kabila signed here was self-explanatory. In other words, the Bafuliru and Bafira tribes can't be more explicit about how they are determined to protect and preserve their customs as described in this particular law. So here we're gonna do some recap by defining what is local custom, so that you can have an idea what we are trying to say here. And so a local custom is a set of uses, practices, and value which through repetition and publicity impose themselves at a given moment in a community as compulsory rules. In French, it says, une coutume locale est un ensemble des usages, des pratiques et des valeurs qui, par l'effet de la répétition et revêtues d'une publicité, s'imposent à un moment donné dans une communauté comme règles obligatoires. And so, what are these uses and practices? So let me give you some examples. In the Vira tradition, the line of succession from the first king, the founder of the Bavira chieftaincy or the Bavira kingdom, to the present king Edmond. The entronization at the Kyushu, that's where they crown the king. And we also know that they want to protect that tradition. Why? Because there's a clan called the Bakono. The Bakono clan produced the next Mwami, the next king, by giving a virgin girl to the new king when he goes to the Kyushu to be crowned. So the new king stays there in the Kyushu for 30 days. While he is there with that virgin girl, he pregnant the girl, and the girl will produce a male child. That male child will be the next king. But because we cannot have two kings at the same time, that child who is produced from that relationship during that 30 days of entronization, that child have to leave the kingdom. And he'll be living outside the kingdom until the day his father dies. Then they will call that child now who is now an adult come and replace his father. And that is a role that is only played by the clan of Bakono. So that tradition have to be kept, have to be respected, because it's tradition of the Mulenge people, Mulenge lineage. Also, those practices, one of them is also the Bavira have to protect the office of the Baluvi, which is composed of 5 clans. The Baluvi are ritual or counselor of the royal court in charge of entronization, military, medical, custom, and tradition, including the preservation of the dialect, which is the Kivira. And finally, another set of uses and practice is the preservation of the crown, which is called Ngeka and Lushembe. So the Ngeka is the one that they put on the head, and the Lushembe is the one that he wear. Usually is the skin of a lion. The incantation of the gods of the Bavira, and also the drum. So the Bavira, like any other people, they have gods that they worship, that they believe in. That's their divinity. So they know that when there's an issue in the village or in the kingdom, they go and consult their god. And every tribe has God, including Banyarwanda. They have a god. They have a drum. That drum have to be protected and preserved. So those are the set of uses and practices that the law is talking about. And this kingdom of the Bavira has those set of law, set of practices and uses that they have to protect. What about the kingdom of the Bafuliro? Like their sisters in the south, the Bafuliro also have practices that they do protect and preserve. They have the same preservation of the lineage of succession from the first king Kiana to Kalingish tree today, the drum Kalinga, the crown Lushembe, the office of the Banjoga, who are also the ritualists in that kingdom. They are composed of 3 clans. The Kusho, where the king, when he dies, where they bury him and how they prepare his body. And also the protection of the land itself against any outside attack through incantation to the god of the Bafuliru. At the same time, also to protect the dialect, which is the Kifuliru. So those are set of practice that the Bafuliru and the Bavira, for example, just to give an example, those are set of practice and use that they protect. And these are defined into the law that Kabila signed in 2015. But it wasn't the first law. Remember, from the beginning, the colonial power decided to keep, not to dissolve the customer laws or the customer right. They included them, they incorporated them into their framework or their organization. So what do the Banyarwanda have to protect and preserve here? Just the name and the number. What do I mean by just the name and the number? If they don't have sets of rule and practice to protect, they don't have the land to protect or to preserve, they cannot show the limitation or the limit of their kingdom. What do they have left to protect? The name and the number. But the number, we know that in the Great Lake region, the Banyarwanda of Tutsi subgroup, they are minority. In Uganda, they are minority. In the DRC, they are minority. In Rwanda itself, they are minority. In Burundi, they are minority. So we can see that for survival reason, they have to protect that number. By protecting, they have to increase it. Also the name. So Banyarwanda is a name, is a tribe as we define it. Tutsi is not a clan. Tutsi is not a tribe. It is not even an ethnic, because there is some debate over why should some scholars call the Tutsi an ethnic group, but it is not an ethnic group because it's part of a clan. Remember, I explained earlier that in a clan in Rwanda, a clan was composed of the 3 subgroups: the Tutsi, the Hutu, and the Twa. So by itself, the Tutsi is not an ethnic group. It is not a clan, but it is a part of a clan. And so in Rwanda and Burundi, they are minority, as I said. In DRC, they are minority. So the survival inspired them in all these projects that we see from social media to Wikipedia to the memorandum that they sent to the UN General Secretary, to those that they sent to human rights. All these activities, they're not bad in a sense in their when we look at them, but we have to go inside and understand what's the aim, what are they looking for, because there's nothing wrong with defending your right, but I think that right has to be the correct one. Also, when you occupy a land, you set some geographical boundaries. When Mulenge clan established the Vira kingdom, it set the boundaries. When the Hamba clan established the Fuliru kingdom, it set the boundaries. Any person can live inside those boundaries. Any person can live anywhere in a place, in a country, in a region, in a district. And these kingdoms are identified as ancestral lands, and the king represents the dialect, he represents the culture and the tradition. He watches over the unity of all social groups within that particular kingdom. He represents the rival clans, city dwellers, and country folk. He represents the living and the dead. He represents the nobles and the commoners. He represents the free people and the slaves. But through competition with each other, king could have their power reduced or eliminated as well as strengthened. So, for example, the example of elimination, we know that the Central Kingdom of Rwanda eliminated or incorporated all other kingdoms that were around it. For example, the Bagesera, the Ndorwa, all those kings and territory were incorporated in the greater kingdom of Rwanda, and their king disappeared slowly. But that's not the case in Western Rwanda or in Eastern Congo, presently in South Kivu. So, what can we say? What does legitimize a king and a kingdom? The reigning clan, the ritualist, or the king advisors, the crown, the drum, the burial place, and the subjects. Those are things, elements, objects that legitimize a king and his kingdom. And since the Banyarwanda don't have any of these in either of the 4 territories they claim to be indigenous today, namely the territory of Babembe, the territory of Barega, the territory of Bavira and Bafulero, they have none of these elements that I just mentioned here. So what do? They have to promote an idea. They have to promote, to sell you something that you accept. But without limitation of that geographical area, it is very difficult. For example, the book that they are usually giving you, they usually give as a reference the book that George wrote in 1954, Le Pays du Vira, or the Vira country. For example, here I have on page 110, you see this map here is page 110 of that book. And we see on the top here is Sheferi de Bafuliro. So we have a limitation. We have Lake Tanganyika here. If we look here, this is Lake Tanganyika. At the bottom here, we have territoire of the Babembe. So we have all this here is the Bavira, the Buvira land or Buvira country. On top, we have the Sheferi or Bafuliru land or country. At the north of Bafuliru land, we have the Bashi. And then at the west of the Bavira land, we have the Babembe and the Barega. So we can see from this map here on this page 10 that West found that in this area here, the Banyarwanda were living. For example, we have Kishembwe here, is a village. and the Banyarwanda were living here, he did not call them Banyamulenge. He called them the Rwanda or Banyarwanda. So they were living here. Even Bijombo is not mentioned. So we have, for example, this is a map that George West made in 1954. He does not mention that there was another Sheferi or kingdom. The only kingdom that he mentioned was this kingdom and that kingdom. Now, if we look at page 13 of his book, page 13 mentions 6 groupements or 6 subdivision of a Sheferi, of a kingdom. We have here the groupement Kamba, the groupement Husseini, groupement Rali, groupement. So we have 6 groupements here, and none of them include a groupement that was owned or occupied or controlled by the Banyarwanda. All these are groupements that were occupied by the family members of the Benelenge lineage. So my friend, what we are trying to do here, we are trying to show you that to claim a right, a customary right, you have to show proof that you have a set of uses and practices that you repeat by repetition, you give to, you teach the next generation. And since the foundation of the kingdom of the Bavira and the kingdom of the Bafulero, we know that we have had succession of kings to this present day, as we have had in Rwanda on the other side of the Lake Kivu and the Ruzizi River. We know we have the list of those kings, we have the list of the king in the Vira kingdom, and we have the list of the king in the Bafulero kingdom. So those set of uses and practice have been repeated over and over, and that's what the customary law means. That's what the customary right means. And so, what do they do, the Banyarwanda? What they do, they sell you a project. They sell you an idea. They promote a name. And the name that they are promoting is not the name of Banyarwanda. What they want is to distinguish, to be separated from the Rwanda, the ancient Rwanda, or the Rwanda that is on the other side, which is not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. But what they are selling is different from what is supposed to be according to the law. So, for example, they claim to be indigenous of Mulenge, so they adopt the name of Banyamulenge. But we'll see in the next video that Banyamulenge means resident of Mulenge, or people living in Mulenge. That's in Kinyarwanda. The B-A-N-Y-A, Banya, is a Kinyarwanda dialect. It is not Bafulero dialect, it is not Bavira dialect. We don't have that dialect in our, that word in our dialect. What we have Bene, B-E-N-E, and we have Bana, B-A-N-A. So if I say, for example, Benelenge, everybody will understand that I'm talking about the proprietor, the occupant of that land that belonged to Lenge. If I say Banakatanda, people will understand that I'm talking about the descendant of the ancestor of the Nakatanda. If I say Benemulenge, people will understand that I'm talking about the occupant of the place called Mulenge. So we use Bene, B-E-N-E, in our dialect, in the Bavira and Bafulero dialect. When you use that, you can either use it to explain the descendant of a person or the occupant of a place. And you can also use Bana to explain or to give a reference to the descendant of a person or an ancestor. So we don't have Banya. Banya means people residing in a place. Banyarwanda, they reside in Rwanda or they are living in Rwanda. When they go to, when they claim Minembwe and Itombwe, they adopt the name of Tutsi of Itombwe. When they are in the territory of the Babembe, they bribe poor villagers so they can be called their descendant. We have so many examples. So whatever they do, there remain another problem. So how do you explain that? I'll give you some examples. I said that they don't have a territory, a limited geographic limitation to give to you, to sell to you, because all the territory that they are claiming, they are already occupied. The Bavira have, as I have shown on this map, there is a limitation already. In 1954, George West saw the limitation of this territory and this kingdom. He saw the limitation of the territory of Bavira and Bafulero, including Jacques de Perchin in 1974. They saw it. So what they continue to do, the Banyarwanda, what they continue to do is to sell you an idea, a project. They are trying to grab somewhere, some place that they can call their own. For example, how did they start those projects? In 1954, they were already claiming the Groupement de Bijombo. In 1966, they wanted to create what was called then Chefferie de Haut Plateau d'Itombwe. In 1979, they pushed until a departmental decree number 0229 of August 23rd, 1979 created the Groupement de Bijombo. But I already showed you that in 1954 there were only 6 groupements. So Bijombo was not a groupement in 1954 when George West wrote his book, or when he went to the Vira country to do his research. That groupement were not existing. So the groupement existed in 1979. And so in 1999, remember the rebel group RCD, when they took power, when they rebelled against Kabila the father, Laurent Kabila, they came to power in 1997. In 1998, they rebelled against him. In 1999, they became another rebel group, RCD. They created the Territoire de Minembwe, if you remember that. So from Groupement de Bijombo in 1954 to Chefferie de Haut Plateau d'Itombwe, which they wanted to have at their own land. In 1979, the Groupement de Bijombo is created. So in addition to the 6 that were already existing in the Chefferie de Bavira, or the Bavira land or Bavira kingdom, that groupement was created. It was created by the government, but it was given it was put under the direction of the king of the Bavira. And then he never nominated a Mnyarwanda to be the chief of that groupement. We have the list. I will show you the list of people that govern or that control that groupement in the next video. In 2009, you remember, we had different conferences in the mountain, in Rwanda, in Uvira, and there was one definition that they gave to define what is Mulenge. Here the definition, that was in 2009. They defined Mulenge this way. Mulenge is located behind the Haut Plateau, the range of Mountain Mitumba. Geographically, Mulenge is limited from the east by the Ruzizi Valley and Lake Tanganyika. From the west, the equatorial forest of Itombwe and Mulenge community. From the north, by Luwinja community, and from the south, by Ngaja community. Mulenge is approximately 300 kilometers in length and 250,000 population. This is in 2009. So they do everything they can to sell this project. Now they extended Mulenge, they touch the end of the territory of Mwenga, south to the territory of Babembe. To the east, they reach Lake Tanganyika, the border with Republic of Rwanda and the Republic of Burundi. And to the north, they go to the end of the territory of Bashi. And that they call that's Mulenge. But as we will see in the next video, Mulenge is just a village. Is a village among, is one of the 35 villages of Groupement Kigoma. So how can a village be extended to this area? How can a village which they claim they come from, and if they come from that village, it means that's their ancestral land. If it is an ancestral land, how does an ancestral land now in the 21st century reaches the four corners of the Eastern Congo? And in 2020, last year, we heard, maybe you read it, we heard about the commune of Minembwe. And this year, there was somebody who was put there in charge of Groupement Bijombo. So every year, every time they tried to get something. They want at all cost, they want to have an ancestral land. And this is a people, Congolese people, that are claiming that they came in this area in the 1800s. So if they came in 1800, but to this day, they don't have a land that they can call their own. Now they are using names that are local, that are ancestral for other people. They are using them to claim that ancestral land or that ancestral right. And so, my friend, what I'm doing here, I'm trying to show you that what the Banyarwanda are doing are trying to sell you an idea so that you can accept it. But we know that, as we have said, for the Aboriginal Canadian and for the Indian American, they have tradition, they have dialect, language, they have values, they have lands, they have those set of uses and practices because of repetition have been accepted as the culture of that people. And so, if now the Banyarwanda claim that Mulenge that I've been presenting to you now touches all these four corners of Eastern Congo, it becomes more than an empire. Because we can see from this definition of Mulenge here, it comprises all the other kingdom. So where is their own? When did this kingdom that they claim to have had before the arrival of the Bavira and Bafulero, who was their king? Who was their leader? And so I invite you to stay tuned. In the next video, we're going to explain. We're going to use every part where they live, explain to you, showing you that what they're saying, they're lying. Because the right they're claiming, it is not a national right as a citizen of Congo, but they want at all cost, they want to have their own particular land that they can call their ancestral land. And that is against the Constitution, is against the local value or the local custom as defined in this law of 2015 and the preceding laws, even preceding the law, the royal decree of 1891, before after the Congo Free State was created. So stay tuned. We'll continue the subject of Mulenge Speaks series. And we hope that we will see you next time when we touch the subject of the Banyarwanda in those area in Mulenge and Chombo. So comment, like, share, and don't forget to read the description, and hope to see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.